The winds were cruel that night at Winterfell, howling through the towers like ghosts mourning some long-lost truth. Ned Stark sat by the hearth in his solar, a single candle flickering beside him, casting long shadows across the ancient stone walls. The letter in his hand trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of what it said. It wasn't a raven that brought the truth to Ned. It was Howland Reed. After years of silence, Howland had come north, eyes sunken and voice low, carrying a secret that had almost been buried with the bones of the Tower of Joy. He had waited until Robert Baratheon was firmly seated on the throne, until Lyanna's ghost stopped screaming in his dreams. "She made me swear, Ned," Howland had said, "but so did you. You swore too that day. You remember what she said, 'Promise me, Ned.'" And then he told him everything. Jon Snow wasn't Ned's son, he was Lyanna's, and Rhaegar Targaryen's. A legitimate heir if the rumors were true, if they were married, quietly, secretly, before she died. Jon wasn't a bastard at all. He was the blood of the dragon and the wolf. Ned couldn't breathe when he heard it. For 15 years, he'd carried the shame of a lie that never belonged to him. He had watched Catelyn's eyes grow colder toward him with every passing day, her resentment seeping into the hallways like rot. He had never told her, not once. He thought he was protecting her, protecting Jon, protecting everyone. But now, the truth bled out like a wound reopened. Jon was only a boy, barely 15, all quiet eyes and questions he never dared ask. Ned had raised him like one of his own, but never truly as one. Always a little apart, always with that look in his eyes that asked, "Why doesn't she love me? Why don't I belong?" And now Ned knew that look came from more than just being a bastard. It came from being a boy with no place in the world, a prince who had been raised with no crown, no name, no identity. Ned stood from his chair and moved to the window, staring out into the snowy courtyard where Jon trained with Robb. They clashed wooden swords, laughing between grunts and curses like true brothers. Robb had no idea he wasn't. None of them did. Ned closed his eyes. What would it mean to tell the truth? Robert would kill him. That much he knew. Robert Baratheon hated the Targaryens with a rage that had never cooled. If he knew that Jon was Rhaegar's son, even Lyanna's child, it wouldn't matter. He'd see a threat to his crown. He'd see dragon's blood and he'd want it spilled. But Ned couldn't bear the lie anymore, couldn't watch Jon grow into a man with no identity, no history. He deserved to know. He had to. That night, after the boys had gone to bed, Ned walked the corridor to Jon's room with slow, heavy steps. The castle was silent, the servants asleep. Only the ghosts of Stark ancestors walked with him, judging his every breath. He knocked once. "Come," Jon said. Jon sat at his desk, writing something on a scrap of parchment, candlelight warming the shadows beneath his dark eyes. He looked up with surprise. "Father?" Ned closed the door behind him and stepped in. "We need to talk, Jon." Jon blinked, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," Ned said quietly. "But I did." And then, for the first time in 15 years, Ned Stark sat before the boy he had raised and told him the truth. "I'm not your father." Jon flinched, mouth parting slightly. "I've never been," Ned continued, his voice thick. "Your mother was my sister, Lyanna. And your father was Rhaegar Targaryen." The silence that followed was heavier than any snowfall Winterfell had ever seen. Jon stood slowly, backing away like he'd been struck. "You lied to me?" "I had to," Ned said, standing as well. "I had to protect you. Robert, he would have had you killed, Jon. You were a threat to his throne." Jon's eyes welled, though he blinked fast to hide it. "So who am I? What am I?" Ned stepped forward, hands trembling as he placed them on Jon's shoulders. "You are Jon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar and Lyanna. You are my blood, even if you are not my son." And in that moment, something in Jon shattered. The snow outside whispered through the cracks in the stone, as if carrying the names of ghosts long dead. The boy once called a bastard was no longer a snow, but in Westeros, names could be as dangerous as swords. Jon did not sleep. He left the room and went straight to the Godswood, walking fast through the cold, past the kennels and the dark, silent towers. The snow fell soft, like ash. He pushed through the red leaves and stood before the heart tree, breath white in the night. The face carved in the weirwood looked down, not kind, not cruel, only old. Ned found him there. Jon did not turn when he heard the crunch of boots on snow. "You named me Snow," Jon said, voice low, eyes on the red mouth of the tree. "You let me grow up thinking I was the stain on your honor. You let your wife think it too." "I know," Ned said. "I am sorry for that more than I can say." "Is it true? All of it? Lyanna? Rhaegar?" His jaw worked like he was biting down on something sharp. Am I a bastard at all?" Ned stepped to his side. The pool below them was thin, with ice, a pale mirror that could not hold any face for long. "Howland Reed believes Rhaegar married your mother in secret. If he is right, you are not a bastard, but proof is hard to hold after war. Men died, and with them their words. The septon, the witnesses, all gone. I have no paper to show a king, only memory, and the promise I made your mother." Jon let out a sound that was not quite a laugh. "Then I am no one and everyone at once." "You are Jon," Ned said. "I named you for the man who made me into the one I am. Jon Arryn kept me and Robert alive when our fathers were killed. He taught me honor that did not bend with the wind. Whatever your blood, you have been Jon from the first day I held you." "My name," Jon whispered, "but not my father, not my house. Am I a Stark, a Targaryen, something stuck between like a fish frozen in the river?" "You are both," Ned said, "and you are mine, even if not by birth." Jon's eyes shone in the moonlight. "Robert would kill me." "Yes. Then why tell me now?" "Because a life built on a lie turns dark from the inside," Ned said, "and because a raven came 2 days ago. Robert rides north. He means to visit Winterfell." He watched the meaning land in Jon's face, watched. Fear open inside him like a cracked door. If the king sees you, it might stir old questions, old anger. "I will not risk that." Jon's shoulders squared. "Do you want me to run?" "I want you hidden where the crown's reach turns weak and slow," Ned said. "Howland Reed will take you to his people. The Crannogmen vanish when they choose. No lord chases ghosts. Into the bog. You'll be safe in the neck until the king rides south again." Jon's mouth twisted. "Safe feels like a word for cowards." "Safe is a word for the living," Ned said. "Bravery is nothing if it gets you killed before you've done any good. Live first. Decide the rest when you are a man and can carry the weight without breaking." They stood like that for a time, the snow whispering around them. Then Jon, he said very quietly, "Will you tell Lady Catelyn?" "Yes," Ned said. The word cost him. "I should have told her years ago. She deserved truth too." He thought of the coldness that had grown between them, like creeping frost. He thought of the nights he lay awake beside her, the lie burning in him hotter than any fever. "I will ask her to help protect you now." "She hates me," Jon said. Not bitter, just a fact he had lived with. "She hates a wound that never healed," Ned said. "Tonight I will show her the scar." He went to her chamber with the same slow steps he had taken to Jon's. Catelyn sat by the fire, mending a small tear in Bran's sleeve. She looked up when he entered, and her face set in that careful way it did when she expected a quarrel she didn't want. "Ned, "I have wronged you," he said, "and I must tell you why." The needle stopped, her mouth pressed tight. "All these years and now," he told her. He spoke of Lyanna, fevered and fading, of the blood on the bed and the blue rose on the pillow, of promises made with tears he had hidden even from himself. He spoke of Rhaegar, not as a kidnapper in Robert's songs, but as a man who may have loved and wed. He spoke of Howland's news and the danger to the boy sleeping under their roof. When he finished, the room was so quiet he heard the fabric in her hand creak. For a moment she was stone. Then she breathed, and the stone cracked and anger came out hard and bright. "You lied to me," she said. "You let me think you had broken our vows in a common bed when you were playing at sainthood in your head. You let me pour my hurt on a child who did not deserve it." "I did," he said. "I thought to protect him. And you." "Protect me?" She laughed once, sharp. "You bound me to a lie so big it swallowed our marriage." He took it. He did not defend himself. The truth did not need a sword here. Finally her eyes went wet. She turned her face away and wiped them angrily. "If Robert learns, he cannot," Ned said. "I mean to send John with Howland Reed before Robert enters the yard. The neck will hide him." She stared at the fire. "Send him away? Of course. That has always been your answer with him. Keep him near enough to see, far enough not to touch." She closed her eyes, and when she opened them, something tired had replaced the sharpness. "If it keeps our children alive, then yes, send him. I will hold my tongue. I will be kind, if I can." "That is all I can ask," Ned said, and he meant it. Before dawn, Howland Reed stood in the yard with 2 silent crannogmen and a small, flat-bottomed boat on a sled. Their cloaks were the colour of the marsh. The sound of hooves came first. Winterfell's gates rattled open as King Robert Baratheon thundered in, a storm in human form. His laughter rolled like thunder across the yard, booming over the clatter of his retinue, gold cloaks and Lannister. Crimson spilled through the gates like a wave of fire and shadow. The people of Winterfell bowed, but Ned stood straight at the front, his face carved in stone. Robert rode high on his destrier, fattened with years of wine but still powerful as a bull. His black beard gleamed with sweat, his eyes bright with a joy that was as dangerous as it was genuine. "Ned," he bellowed, voice echoing against the walls, "you old frozen son of a bitch!" Ned bowed his head slightly but did not smile. "Your Grace, Winterfell is yours." Robert dismounted heavily, his boots sinking in the snow. He pulled Ned into a crushing embrace that smelled of wine and sweat and memory. "Seven hells! You look older than I do," Robert laughed. "What have the years done to you?" "They've done the same to you," Ned said, though softly, with a shadow behind the words. The courtesies began. The Queen sweeping forward in gold and green, her beauty sharp as glass, the children trailing her like jewels on a chain. Jaime Lannister shining brighter than all in gilded armor, his lion's smile curling at the edge. They greeted, they bowed, they smiled their false smiles. But Ned's eyes flickered past them to the yard where Robert's gaze should have lingered. No John. Robert's face swept the crowd of Stark children, Robb, Sansa, Arya, Bran, Rickon, and... He grinned, clapping Robb's shoulder, ruffling Bran's hair. "A brood already. Gods, you've been busy, Ned. How many sons?" "3, Ned said evenly. Robert blinked. "3? Ha! And no bastards running underfoot? I thought you'd have a litter like your old wolf of a father." Ned's mouth tightened. "No bastards, Your Grace." Robert laughed again, already moving on, his hunger for food and drink pulling him toward the great hall. "Well, come then. I've ridden 1,000 leagues for a feast and a flagon. Let us remember what it is to live." But Ned heard the weight in the words. Robert had noticed Jon's absence, though he brushed it off with jests. The man might be blind with drink, but the past still burned in him like an old wound. That night, the hall roared with music, meat, and mead. Robert sat the high seat, tearing into pork with his bare hands, grease dripping down his beard. His laughter filled the rafters, but his eyes flicked more than once to Ned, weighing something behind the mirth. Cersei sat beside him, a golden mask. Her smile never touched her eyes. She watched the Starks with the sharpness of a hawk, her fingers curling around her cup whenever her husband laughed too loud. Jaime lingered near, casual, leaning against a pillar, his golden hair catching torchlight like flame. He smiled at everyone, but his gaze was too often on his sister. Arya fidgeted at the table, stabbing her food with her knife, Sansa glowing beside Joffrey with a smile that was too eager, too soft. Ned's stomach turned. He saw danger everywhere in that hall. And beneath it all, one thought circled like a wolf at the edges of his mind. If Robert asks again, if he presses, what will I say? The next morning, Robert asked. He found Ned alone in the crypts, standing before Lyanna's statue. The king's heavy steps echoed behind him, and when Ned turned, Robert was there, eyes wet from drink or memory. He could not tell. I dream of her, Robert said, staring at the stone face. Still, after all these years, gods, Ned, why couldn't I save her? Ned lowered his eyes. Some wounds never close. Robert's jaw clenched. He turned suddenly, his voice sharp. Where is your boy? Ned's chest tightened. Which boy? You know damn well, Robert snapped. The one you brought back from the war. Your bastard, Jon Snow. Why isn't he here to meet his king? The silence in the crypt was colder than the air. Ned's hands curled at his sides. He chose his words carefully, each one laid like a stepping stone across a pit. He's gone south, to foster for a time. The boy has dreams beyond Winterfell. I thought it wise to let him find them. Robert studied him, his breath heavy in the still air. Fostering, eh? Humph. Never thought you'd shame the boy so. Much you'd send him away. I would never shame him, Ned said too quick. Robert narrowed his eyes. For a heartbeat, his face lost its drunken warmth, and something cold, sharp, and kingly stared out. Then just as fast it was gone. He clapped Ned's shoulder with a laugh too loud for the place. 7 hells, you're still as stiff as the wall, Robert said. Drink with me tonight. We'll toast to sons, to war, to women, eh? To Lyanna. His voice cracked on her name, and he turned back toward the steps before Ned could answer. Ned stayed in the dark, his heart pounding. That had been too close. Above, in the hall, the Lannisters whispered behind golden goblets. Cersei's eyes missed nothing. Jaime smirked, watching Robert's hand shake when he raised his cup. And far away, hidden in the mists of the neck, Jon Snow, Jon Targaryen, trained. With a wooden spear in the bogs, Howland Reed's voice guiding him. He dreamed of wolves and dragons, though he did not yet know what the dreams meant. But winter was coming, and with it, truth would not stay buried. The morning after the feast, Robert summoned Ned to the Godswood. No courtiers, no queen, not even Ser Barristan to shadow him. Just Robert, pacing with his hands knotted behind his back, the great oak of the heart tree looming like a silent witness. His face was flushed, though whether from wine or from what. He was about to ask, Ned could not tell. You've always been the one I trusted most, Robert said at last, breaking the quiet. His voice was raw, stripped of the booming laughter that carried him through halls. Jon Arryn is dead, Ned. Murdered, I know it. And I need someone honest at my side. Someone who won't twist every truth into gold like the Lannisters do. Ned's jaw tightened. You suspect the Queen. I suspect snakes, Robert growled. And I don't care what colors they wear. I need you in King's Landing. Be my hand, Ned. Rule with me. Rule for me when I can't. The words fell heavy. Ned saw the trap in them. South meant politics, lies, and poison. Nothing of honor, nothing of home. His children would be pawns, his wife would be surrounded by enemies with smiling faces, and John was already hidden, already one spark away from discovery. To leave him now? "Your Grace," Ned said carefully, "Winterfell needs its lord. The north is no easy ward, especially with winter coming." Robert wheeled on him, red-faced. "The north will follow you wherever you are. You think I ask this for your sake? I ask it for Lyanna's, for the love I bore her, for the memory of her. I want her kin beside me, not snakes. 7 hells, Ned, I'll beg if I must." The name cut deep, as Robert meant it to. Ned bowed his head. "I will speak with my wife." "Do it quickly," Robert said, softer now. "The realm rots while we drink, and if it is the Lannisters who killed Jon Arryn, then gods help us all." That night, Ned sat with Catelyn in their chamber, the candle between them burning low. She listened, silent, as he told her of the king's offer. Her face was unreadable, but her hands twisted the fabric of her gown until her knuckles whitened. "King's Landing," she said at last. "Do you remember what it was like, Ned? The heat, the whispers, the daggers behind every smile?" "I remember. And Jon." Her voice caught. "If you go south and Robert learns more, if some careless word reaches his ears, that is why Jon must stay where he is," Ned said firmly. "Howland Reed will guard him. In the neck, no king's men can sniff him out. Safer there than under Winterfell's roof, while Robert feasts above him." Catelyn nodded once, though her lips trembled. "Then take only what you must. Sansa, perhaps, if the king means her for his son. But keep Arya here, and Bran. Rickon is too young to travel." Ned reached across the table, covering her hand with his. For once she did not pull away. The weight of their shared secret had changed something between them, not healed, not yet, but softened. "I will not let Robert destroy this family," Ned said. "Not again." Far to the south, in the mists and shadows of the neck, Jon Snow was learning to move like a Crannogman. Howland Reed's voice was low, his movements quick, slipping through bog and branch as if the swamp itself obeyed him. "You fight like a wolf," Howland said, watching Jon strike at a straw dummy with spear and shield. "But wolves sink in the mire. Here you must fight like the frog, like the eel, quick, unseen, striking when the enemy does not know you are there." Jon's arms ached, but he pushed on. What good is a frog against knights in steel? Howland only smiled. "A frog kills without ever being seen. Remember that, Jon. Sometimes survival is victory enough." At night, by the fire, the Crannogman whispered strange songs. Songs of the children of the forest, of green dreams, of men who could change their skins. Jon listened, half afraid, half hungry for every tale. Dreams had come to him since he left Winterfell. Dreams of wolves and fire, of wings beating against, storm clouds, of a great shadow stretching over the land. He did not tell Howland, but he wondered if the dreams were more than just fancies. One night, as the frogs croaked and the reeds swayed, Jon asked the question that had burned in him since the gods would. "What was my mother like?" Howland looked at him for a long time. His eyes seemed older than any marsh, any stone. She was fierce and gentle both. She fought for what was hers, and yet she could smile in a way that made men forget war. "And my father," the Crannogman's mouth tightened, "a prince who sang of honor but whose choices led to ruin. He may have loved her, Jon, perhaps truly, but love does not wash blood away." Jon turned from the fire, staring into the dark marsh. His chest felt tight, as if 2 beasts warred inside him, wolf and dragon, clawing at one another. Then, "What am I?" he whispered. "Alive," Howland said. "For now, that is enough." Back in Winterfell, ravens stirred. Robert pressed harder, drunk with nostalgia and loss, his talk of Lyanna growing louder, sloppier. He wanted Ned in the south, wanted Sansa tied to Joffrey, wanted old wounds to heal with crowns and feasts. But in the shadows of the hall, Cersei Lannister watched. She had heard Robert mutter once, half in drink, "Where is the boy, Ned?" The Queen did not miss such words, and when she lay beside Jaime that night, her voice was sharp as the steel they both feared. "There is something in Winterfell Robert smells, but cannot see," she whispered. "A secret your honorable Stark hides." Jaime laughed, low and careless. Starks and their secrets, always brooding in the dark. But Cersei's green eyes burned with a hunger fiercer than dragons. "Find it before Robert does." The days that followed were a dance of whispers. Robert drank and laughed and hunted, but beneath the noise of his presence the castle had grown uneasy. Cersei's green eyes swept every corridor like a cat, searching for a mouse. She asked small questions in her smooth, honeyed voice, too small, too careless. Servants were pressed about the Stark children. Ladies of the court idled with Sansa and Arya, asking if there were other brothers. Ned felt it like a knife pressed against his ribs. He had hidden Jon, but secrets were like smoke. They leaked through the smallest cracks, and Cersei Lannister had a nose for them. One night, as the hall quieted and the servants cleared the last of the trenches, Jaime Lannister approached Ned with that lion smile he wore so easily. His golden hair gleamed in the torchlight, his armor polished brighter than the sun. "You know," Jaime said, leaning lazily against the long table, "I always wondered, for all your talk of honor, you came home from war with a bastard on your hip? Doesn't seem like the Ned Stark I know." Ned's jaw tightened. "You know nothing of the boy." Perhaps not," Jaime drawled, "but others are curious. The Queen, for one, even Robert when he drinks deep enough." His smile sharpened. "Best hope no one digs too deep, Stark. Buried things have a way of clawing out of the ground." Ned, left before his temper betrayed him, but Jaime's words echoed long after. The walls of Winterfell felt thinner by the day. Meanwhile, in the neck, Jon was no longer just a guest. He was being shaped. The crannogman taught him to walk on reeds, without sinking, to vanish in fog, to strike with spear and vanish before the enemy could turn. He learned the ways of poisons brewed from swamp flowers, of arrows that whistled silently through the mist. But it wasn't only war. Howland Reed taught him history, not the songs Robert sang, but truths whispered in shadows. "The dragons were not always monsters," Howland said one night, his face painted with mud and shadows. "Some were just men, struggling to hold a realm too large to tame. But power does not forgive weakness, Jon. And love, in the wrong place, can burn kingdoms." Jon listened, every word cutting into him like a blade. He had thought himself one, then a bastard, then a prince hidden in snow. Now he was something else, something tangled between wolf and dragon, history and lies. He trained harder than ever, as if answers could be beaten out of straw dummies and marsh reeds. Yet still, the dreams came. He dreamt of standing on a great wall of ice, the wind screaming in his ears, shadows moving in the snow. He dreamt of fire, wild and furious, wings beating in the smoke. And sometimes he dreamt of a crown that burned too hot to touch. When he told Howland, the crannogman only said, "Dreams are rivers, Jon. Some lead to the sea, some drown you." At Winterfell the king pressed his suit. One afternoon in the Crypts he laid his heavy hand on Ned's shoulder. "Marry Sansa to Joffrey," Robert said. "Ice and fire, wolf and lion. Let our houses bind again, Ned. Let us do what Lyanna and I never could." Ned stared at the stone face of his sister. She seemed to watch him, her lips frozen in that small, sad smile. The thought of giving Sansa to Joffrey, a cruel, spoiled boy with too much of his mother in him, made his stomach twist. But Robert's eyes were pleading, desperate, and the weight of refusal felt heavier than steel. "I will consider it," Ned said finally. Robert beamed and clapped him so hard his bones ached. "That's my brother!" But in the shadows, Cersei heard. That night she spoke to Jaime, her voice sharp as glass. "If the Starks bind themselves to us, It must be on our terms, not Robert's. That wolf has secrets, Jaime. Find them. Jaime only smirked, but Cersei's gaze lingered too long on the Stark children. She noticed the empty place at the table, the missing boy whose name was whispered in passing and then silenced. Jon Snow. She meant to know more. Back in the neck, a storm broke over the swamps. Rain hammered down, thunder rolled, and Jon stood soaked to the bone, sparring with a reed spear against Howland himself. He lost, again and again, but each fall hardened him. Each failure carved something sharper into his heart. When the rain eased, Howland crouched beside him. You fight as if you carry the weight of the world. That will break you, Jon. You must learn to bend like the reed. Only then will you rise again when the storm passes. Jon wiped the mud from his face. What if the storm never passes? Howland's gaze was grave. Then you must become it. At Winterfell, the storm was already gathering. Cersei's spies sniffed along the halls. Robert pushed harder for Ned to go south, and above them all ravens circled, their black wings whispering of troubles to come. Winter was not the only thing coming. Secrets, too, were on the march. The Queen did not waste time. While Robert feasted and hunted, Cersei Lannister set her web. She spoke sweetly to Septa Mordain, who spoke too freely of the Stark children. She offered compliments to Sansa, little. Questions hidden in the honey of her voice. And what of your half-brother? The one not at table? Is he fostered at some lord's hall? Sansa, eager to please, stammered half-answers, confused looks. That was enough. Cersei knew then. There was a boy, hidden, and Robert had asked after him once, his tongue loosened by wine. A bastard of Ned's, or so the songs claimed. But why would Eddard Stark, the stiffest man in the realm, hide his bastard away the moment the king arrived? Secrets. Always secrets with Starks. That night, Cersei summoned Jaime to her chambers. The firelight glowed against her golden hair as she poured him wine. There is something here Robert cannot see, she murmured. The Stark bastard. Find out where he has gone. I would know why he is hidden. Jaime lounged in her chair, smiling faintly. Perhaps Ned Stark finally felt shame, a little late if you ask me. The boy must be a man grown by now. Cersei's eyes narrowed. Ned Stark does nothing without reason. If that boy lives, there is more to him than dirtied honor. I would know what. Jaime shrugged, but the glint in his eye said he would try. In the neck, Jon Snow faced his own trial. A band of iron-born reavers had come upriver in their shallow draft boats, raiding Crannog villages. Smoke curled over the swamps, the air thick with the stench of burning peat and flesh. Howland Reed's people melted into the bog as they always had, but this time they did not only hide, they struck back. Jon was among them. Spear in hand, he crept through knee-deep water, his breath slow, his body painted with mud. He could hear the Ironborn ahead, harsh laughter, the clink of stolen trinkets, a woman crying out before her voice was cut short. Rage boiled inside him, hot and wild, but he remembered Howland's words, bend like the reed. The Crannogmen moved first, loosing arrows from the reeds. 2 Ironborn fell, thrashing in the black water. Jon surged forward with the others, his spear lancing one raider through the side. Blood poured into the swamp, dark and steaming. Jon pulled his weapon free, shaking. The man gasped once and went still. It was the first man Jon had ever killed. After, when the Ironborn fled and the fires were doused, Jon stood alone at the water's edge. His hands trembled. He stared at the body half sunk in the mire, the pale face already swallowed by mud. He felt sick, hollowed, and yet there was something else too, something deep in his chest, hot and fierce. Not triumph, but not only grief. Howland found him there. You killed as a man must. Does it haunt you? Yes, Jon said. His voice cracked. But there is something else. I don't know what. That is blood speaking. Howland said softly. Both wolf and dragon. The wolf mourns, the dragon burns. Jon shivered at the words. He thought of Winterfell, of Robb and Arya, of Ned's heavy truth in the Godswood. He thought of a dragon he had never seen, yet felt inside his marrow, and he wondered which side of him would win when the time came. At Winterfell, Ned sensed the noose tightening. Robert pressed him daily, urging him to take the hand's chain. Come south, Ned. The realm needs you. Your girl will be queen. We'll bind our houses tighter than ever. Ned stalled, promising answers, but every day the queen's eyes seemed sharper. One evening he found Littlefinger at the feast table, whispering in Varys's ear. Spies from the south had already begun to circle. Ned knew it. That night he spoke again with Catelyn in hushed tones. If the queen digs too deep, she may find more than we can bury. Jon is hidden, but not beyond reach forever. Catelyn, pale in the candlelight, nodded slowly. And if she learns what he is, what he truly is, Robert will not hesitate. He will kill him, and any who kept the secret. Ned felt the weight of Lyanna's last words on him again. Promise me, Ned, I will not let that happen, he swore. But in truth, he did not know how long he could hold back the tide. Far in the bogs, as Jon lay beneath the stars, sleep claimed him, and with it came a dream so sharp it stole his breath. He stood in a hall of ice, endless and silent. Shadows moved beyond the walls, eyes glowing blue. Then fire roared, filling the sky with wings that blotted out the sun. He stood between them. Ice and fire, wolf and dragon, and the world cracked beneath his feet. He woke drenched in sweat, the swamp mist curling around him like breath from some great beast. Howland Reed watched him from the fire, eyes unreadable. The dream comes again? The Crannogman asked. Jon nodded, silent. Then the storm draws nearer, Howland said. And when it breaks, boy, you must choose what you are. Jon lay back, staring at the sky. He felt the choice already pressing, like a crown too heavy for his head. The day Robert forced the matter came heavy with summer heat, though Winterfell's air still carried the bite of the north. He summoned Ned to the solar, his voice already booming before Ned stepped through the door. You've dallied long enough, Ned, Robert said, slamming his hand on the table where maps and goblets lay scattered. The realm is rotten, and I won't sit by while snakes eat it hollow. I need you in King's Landing. I'll have no one else. By the gods, I'll drag you south in chains if I must. Ned met his old friend's eyes, seeing not the man he had once followed into war, but the king, bloated, desperate, dangerous. You ask me to abandon the north, to drag my daughters into a pit of vipers. I ask you to save the realm, Robert barked. Then his tone softened, almost pleading. We were meant to rule together, Ned, to mend what was broken when she... His mouth twisted, and he swallowed Lyanna's name. You're all I have left that I can trust. Ned's heart warred in his chest. To refuse might spark Robert's suspicion, and worse, his wrath. To accept would mean leaving Jon hidden in the neck, unguarded by Ned's watchful eye. Every road felt lined with swords. At last he said quietly, I will serve, for the realm, for Lyanna. Relief crashed over Robert like a wave. He laughed, clapped Ned's arm, and called for more wine. But Ned felt no victory in the choice, only dread. That same night, Cersei walked the corridors like a shadow, her silks whispering. She had ordered servants to speak, bribed guards with gold, even pressed Maester Luwin with honeyed words. From their lips she had gathered threads. The stark bastard was not in Winterfell. He had gone quietly before the king's arrival. Ned Stark had hidden him. Why? When she lay beside Jaime, her voice was a blade. He hides the boy from Robert. Do you see what that means? He fears the king's eyes upon him. He fears what will be found. Jaime smirked, running a hand through her golden hair. Perhaps the boy has Targaryen eyes, eh? Black as night. Or perhaps Stark pride couldn't stomach a bastard eating at their table. Cersei's nails dug into his chest. Don't jest. If there is truth buried here, it could shake thrones. I want to know who that boy is, Jaime, and I want it before Robert does. Jaime's smile faded just slightly. And if he is more than a bastard, then he dies, Cersei whispered, like every dragon before him. In the neck, Jon Snow's second test came not by choice, but by chance. Alone. Ironborn raider, wounded and half-drowned, stumbled into the swamp camp one night. The Crannog men bound him, stripped him of weapons, and dragged him before Howland Reed. The prisoner spat blood and curses, calling them swamp rats, promising reavers would return in greater number. His eyes, fierce even in chains, found Jon. "And you," he sneered, "I know you, wolf-blood, pale as the north wind. You're no frog-eater. What are you doing here, boy?" The Crannog men looked to Howland. Some muttered for blood. Ironborn raiders had killed their kin, burned their homes, but Howland's gaze settled on Jon. "What say you? Shall he live or die?" The question struck Jon like a blow. His heart thundered. He saw the man he had killed days before, blood bubbling in the swamp. He felt again that strange fire in his chest, half grief, half fury. "If he lives, he will kill again," Jon said, voice hard. "Then strike," Howland said simply. Jon raised his spear. The raider glared, defiant even as death loomed. For a heartbeat, Jon's arms trembled. The wolf in him whispered mercy. Spare him, bind him, let him rot. The dragon in him whispered fire. End him, burn out the threat. At last, Jon drove the spear through the man's throat. The bog swallowed the scream. When it was done, Jon stood trembling, but his face was set. The Crannog men bowed their heads, not in mockery, but in respect. Howland studied him long. "You chose fire," Howland said quietly. Jon wiped the blood from his hands. His eyes shadowed. "I chose survival." "Perhaps," Howland murmured. "But remember this, Jon. Each choice marks you. One day the mark will show the world what you are." Back at Winterfell, the Lannisters grew restless. Jaime prowled the yard, his smile too sharp. Cersei pressed Robert with whispers, planting seeds of suspicion. And Sansa, innocent still, dreamed of Joffrey's golden hair, blind to the poison in his veins. The pieces were moving, the game tightening. And in the swamps, Jon Snow, no Jon Targaryen, felt the weight of blood on his hands and the fire in his chest, wondering which would consume him first. The end came swifter than Ned Stark ever feared. It began with a whisper, a servant's tongue, loosened by coin, a careless word about a boy who had once shadowed the Stark children, but had vanished before the king's arrival. By morning, Cersei Lannister held the thread in her hand. By dusk, she had tugged, and the whole cloth unraveled. She came to Ned in the Godswood, her gown green and gold against the red leaves of the heart tree. Her smile was thin as a blade. "You've hidden something from your king, Lord Stark. Something precious, a boy." Ned's blood turned to ice. "My son is no concern of yours." "Your son?" Her laugh was soft and poisonous. "Do not insult me. I know a lie when I taste it. This bastard, Jon Snow you called him, he's no common mistake of lust. Why hide him if that is all he was?" Ned's hand clenched at his side. "You play with fire, your grace." Her eyes glittered. "Then let me burn. Tell me whose blood runs in him. If Robert learns first, I cannot promise his mercy." For a heartbeat, Ned nearly broke. Lyanna's face, pale with fever, flashed before him, her voice faint in his ears. "Promise me, Ned." He had kept that promise for 15 years, and now the walls were collapsing. "You will not touch him," Ned said, each word a stone. "Wherever. He is beyond your reach." Cersei studied him, weighing. Then she leaned close, her breath warm as venom. "Not forever. Secrets are like seeds, Lord Stark. They always find the sun." She turned and left him in the Godswood, the red leaves shivering as if the tree itself mourned. In the neck, Jon Snow felt the storm before it reached him. The Crannog men had grown restless, speaking of Lannister riders probing the borders of Strangers asking questions in villages by the river. Howland Reed moved them deeper into the bogs, into places so thick with mist that even birds feared to fly. Jon trained still, but the weight in his chest grew heavier. Each dream now came sharper. Wings of fire, eyes of ice, a crown of iron burning his brow. He woke each time with sweat cold on his skin, his hands gripping earth as if it might anchor him to the world. One night, he asked Howland the question that gnawed at him. If Robert finds me, if he learns who I am, what then? Howland's face was grave in the firelight. Then Robert will do what Robert has always done to Targaryens. Jon's throat tightened. And you would fight for me. I swore to your mother, Howland said. But more than that, I see the storm in you. The realm may yet need it. Jon turned from the fire, staring into the reeds. He wanted to be Jon Snow again, the boy who trained with Robb, who laughed with Arya, who dreamed of the wall. But the wolf's howl was fading, and the dragon's roar was rising. At Winterfell, Robert pressed the final blow. He announced, before the whole hall, that Ned Stark would ride south as his hand. Cheers rang, goblets raised, but Ned felt the chains settle on him heavier than any crown. Later, alone, Robert clasped his arm. His voice was thick with wine. We'll root them out, Ned, all of them. Snakes in my court, vipers in my bed. I'll need you and no one else. Ned forced himself to nod, though his heart burned. He thought of Jon, hidden in the swamps, hunted by shadows. He thought of Sansa, already ensnared in dreams of Joffrey. He thought of Cersei's whisper, cold and certain. Secrets always find the sun. The raven came 3 nights later, not to Winterfell, but to the neck, a black-winged messenger from Maester Luwin, bearing words sealed in wax. The Queen suspects. Keep him hidden. Keep him safe. Jon read the letter twice, his hands trembling. Then he looked to Howland. She knows. It is only a matter of time before Robert does. Howland nodded grimly. Then you must choose, Jon. You cannot hide forever. Will you be the wolf that flees or the dragon that fights? Jon's eyes burned in the firelight. For the first time, he did not answer. He only clenched the spear in his hand until his knuckles whitened. When Ned Stark left Winterfell with Robert's party, the snows fell heavier, as if the old gods themselves wept. Catelyn stood on the walls, her face pale, her children clustered at her skirts. Behind her, the empty place at table, Jon's place, seemed larger than ever, and far away, in the swamps where mist and memory tangled, Jon Snow, Jon Targaryen, stood at a crossroads. The wolf and the dragon warred within him. Every path before him was shadowed by fire and blood. The realm thought him gone, a bastard vanished into the bogs. But in truth, he was waiting, watching, growing. And when the storm at last broke over, Westeros, Jon would not be no one. He would be the choice that changed the world.